Greetings, it's my pleasure tonight to start reading this book, Sikhism and Tantric Yoga, by Dr. Trilochan Singh, and his son, Dr. Anurag Singh, has co-authored the additions to this book. So a little bit of history. In 1977, the first edition of this book was published, and this year, just recently, this new edition has come out. So this has much more evidence, much more information, many more pictures, more research. And if you want a copy of this book and you can't afford it, then just reach out to me and I'll make sure that a copy gets to you. I'm going to go ahead and read cover to cover, so I'll read the back and I'll read the inside infolds as well, and then start with the book. So a couple of things, I'll probably mispronounce many words and names, so I apologize for that in advance. And there's some grammar errors that I'm going to fix as I read. Just as an editor, it's my habit to do that, and I want it to flow well and sound well. So there are a couple of missing words and such, so I'm just gonna correct that as I read along. So we'll just go ahead and start. I'm going to start with the back cover. So if you're in a bookstore and you were going to pick this up, wondered what it was about, this is the first thing that you would probably read. It's some reviews. So the first one is by Time International from New York, and it was written on September 5th of 1977. It says, Sikh historian Trilochan Singh says Bhajan's synthesis of Sikhism and Tantrism is a sacrilegious hodgepodge. Yogi Bhajan himself was unwilling to grant Time an interview. The supreme authority of the Sikh religion in the Western world may have to answer a few questions from his fellow Sikhs about the kind of religion he is preaching and practicing. The second one is from a letter. It's from Sardar Karpur Singh's letter dated July 28th of 1978 to the author. He says, "It is refreshing to meet a mind that is still capable of forthright, uninhibited expression on Sikh affairs. It is without doubt a piece of forthright and well-timed argument. I am not surprised that it is being here avidly read by those who receive it. I have no doubt that its enlarged form will be equally and even more effective." And finally, this is from February of 1994. It's an article called A Crusading Scholar, and it's from the Sikh Review from Calcutta. And it says, "The most notable trait of Dr. Trilochan Singh's personality was his total commitment to Sikhism. He would in no circumstances compromise in relation to Sikh doctrines and the interest of Sikhism. This is something unique in an age in which religion has become a flogging horse and a commodity that commands a highly lucrative market, particularly in the West. With his rich stock of Sikh scholarship, Dr. Trilochan Singh made a most attractive partner for flourishing good men. One of them overseas threw tempting baits. Since the proposed partnership involved betrayal of the Sikh doctrines, Dr. Trilochan Singh's answer was a trenchant 149 pages book entitled Sikhism and Tantric Yoga. So that was about the original edition, and this one's almost 400 pages, so there's definitely a lot of more evidence. And in the inside cover, it says, Right from the times of the Sikh gurus, many groups emerged in the garb of Sikhism with parallel guruships, but ended as rejected outgroups. Adversaries of Sikhism. Notable among them are Minas, Dirmalyas, Ram Rayas, Ajit Malyas, Niranjanis, Nirankaris, Radha Swamis, Namdaris. In the 1960s, Yogi Bhajan floated his brand of Tantric yoga, Sikhism, in the USA. A crude mixture of Sikhism and Tantric yoga, which is reproved in the Sikh scriptures. But still, this new brand of Sikhism received sanction from the SGPC through its president, Guru Charan Singh Tora, Secretary Gianni Mohinder Singh, Hukam Singh, etc. The late Dr. Trilochan Singh, during his tour of the USA in 1977, exposed this anti-Sikh movement in the first edition of the book Sikhism and Tantric Yoga. And the book proved a turning point in the lives of many American converts. The author predicted that this book will be relevant even after 50 years of its publication, and the Tantric brand of Yogi Bhajan will collapse due to its inherent contradictions. After the demise of Dr. Trilochan Singh of February 15, 1993, the book was revised, documented, and enlarged by his son, Professor Anurag Singh. This extensively researched and profusely documented edition is now being given as a gift to those who value Sikhism in its pristine purity. And on the back, inside flap, it gives a short biography about Dr. Trilochan Singh, as well as his son, Anurag Singh, co-author of this edition. Dr. Trilochan Singh, 1919 to 1993, was a crusading scholar, an adventurous and committed man of faith, an activist sharing his co-religionist joys and anguish in full measure. He never compromised on Sikh doctrines and the interest of Sikhism. He had about 40 published books and 200 published research papers to his credit, which included UNESCO-sponsored The Sacred Writings of the Sikhs, Guru Tegh Bahadur, Prophet and Martyr, Guru Nanak, founder of Sikhism, Hymns of Guru Tegh Bahadur, Songs of Nirvana, Life of the Guru Hari Krishan, Responsibility of Sikh Youth, Ethical Philosophy of Guru Nanak, Social Philosophy of Guru Gobind Singh, True Humanism of Guru Nanak, Guru Nanak's Religion, a Comparative Study of Religions, The Turban and the Sword of the Sikhs, Essence of Sikhism, Ernest Trump and W. H. MacLeod as scholars of Sikh history, religion, and cultural. Anurag Singh, born in 1953, co-author of this book, did his post-graduation in history and English, and was trained in writing, editing, and translating the sacred texts by his celebrated father, Dr. Trilochan Singh. His work includes Gianni Kirpal Singh's eyewitness account of Operation Blue Star, a brief account of the life and works of Guru Gobind Singh, Sikhism and Six Hindu systems, Sikhism and Yoga, Quest for Self-Realization and God-Realization, Glimpses of Guru Nanak, Within Reach of All, Glimpses of Guru Tegh Bahadur, Prophet of Peace and Defender of Faith, Hukamnamas of Guru Tegh Bahadur, Text, Historicity, Transliteration and Translation, Raga Ratan, Pearls of Celestial Symphony, Nanak Nam, Chardi Kala. So it starts off, dedicated to the American and Western Sikhs, whose devotion to Sikhism is unique and exemplary, whose passion to learn from historical experiences and the lives of really great Sikh saints is marvelous, whose zeal to study the Sikh doctrines and language of Sikh scriptures in the original and imbibe in its spirit is impressive. In the hope and sincere expectation that they will reject false doctrines and accept truth as revealed in the Sikh scriptures, that they will reject completely Tantric and other yogas and be Sikh divines, that they will accept the Sikh path of mystical enlightenment in theory and practice, and share with others their truly Sikh experiences and knowledge with humility, that they will discard all misleading practices of yogic mantras, yantras, and stop Shakti worship, Shakti cult, and image worship of their spiritual guide, that they will prefer to live in the sunshine of open life than ever confine themselves to the gloomy manifestations of ashram life, that they will choose freedom and religious living in an open society and turn their back on authoritarianism, social, cultural, political, and actively participate in national and international affairs of the Sikhs, which is particularly important right now, I think. Just a side note, it's not written here, but with the farmers' protests, I think that's really important, that we all be involved in real Sikh history. And now we start. In 1932, in this very city of Los Angeles, where Yogi Bhajan had established his 3HO headquarters, another man named Yogi Vasan established his yoga center almost as successfully as Yogi Bhajan had done, but I have not been able to find out how long it lasted. In a huge hall in the winter of 1932, there stood a 6-foot-tall Hindu yogi in Los Angeles, ready to deliver his much-publicized discourses on the great religious classic, the Gita. He wore saffron robes, wooden beads around his neck, and a Vivekananda-style turban on his head. Like Yogi Bhajan, he was in his early 40s. A beautiful American lady introduced him as Yogi Vasan. I wonder if Yogi Bhajan had made his name rhyme with Yogi Vasan and had changed it from Harbhajan Singh to Yogi Bhajan. The awestruck American audience saw that Yogi Vasan lifted a book from the table, which he said was Sanskrit text of the Gita, an original, but actually it was the well-known Punjabi classic of a Muslim poet, Waris Shah's Heer Ranjha, a lyrical romance story of Heer and Ranjha, the Punjabi Romeo and Juliet. With his eyes closed and in the same serious meditative mood in which Yogi Bhajan had been photographed and painted by his sycophants, and a divinely tuned voice, he recited, Om, 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 Om. As soon as Heer got on the horse, she wept and wailed aloud, Father dear, do not let me be taken away. Keep me with you, O Father. They are carrying me away to the home of the in-laws. And I want to let you know, it does have this original text, but I don't want to butcher that by mispronouncing everything. So I'm going to go ahead and just read the translation. The audience was thrilled by Yogi Vasan's voice. He closed the book and placed it reverently on the table, and then began to address the audience, saying, This was the 4th Salok from the 3rd chapter of the Gita, in which Lord Krishna exhorts Arjuna to do his duty without thinking of reward. A right action is the right reward. Yogi Vasan again lifted the book with utmost reverence and recited, Om, Om. O dear Ranjan, you have given me up to God. I am now a helpless victim of my cruel spouse. Again he closed the book and explained, "This is the 5th shlok from the 3rd chapter of the Gita, in which Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that it is false attachments which are preventing him from doing his duty, and which are the cause of the agony and the sorrow in this world." The American audience was enthralled, but the 2 Punjabis sitting in the audience felt cheated, insulted, and humiliated, just as the genuine seekers of Sikhism feel outraged on hearing about the tantricized Sikhism of Yogi Bhajan. They silently raised their fists, indicating that they would beat him to a pulp, otherwise he should stop relating Gita to Hir Ranja. Undisturbed by these protests, Yogi Vasan quietly lifted the book again and recited in the same melodious tune in which he was singing Hir Ranja. Om, Om, Om. You who are sitting in the back seats, you better do your work and let me earn my living. That's brilliant. Again, he closed the book and explained to his innocent audience the meanings according to his crude knowledge. He continued reading Hir Ranja and giving his distorted version of Gita's sloks without knowing or reading the original text. The Punjabis of Los Angeles reported this fraudulent behavior of Yogi Vasan to Dr. Syed Hussain, who was a professor in Southern California, and to Dr. Dilip Singh Sand. Yogi Vasan invited them all and feted them to chicken, wine, and such delicacies that they forgave him the professional tricks, and he had adopted to be a yogi and a Sanskrit scholar of the Gita. This combination of intellectually dishonest academians and professionally dishonest yogi gave a moral boost to the dollar-clutching business of Yogi Vasan. 3 decades later, Yogi Bhajan's Tantric Yoga and Sikhism started very much in the same way. We do not know what happened to Yogi Vasan, but Yogi Bhajan was introduced by very intelligent women, and he let them down and found in Prem Kakar, or Pamela Levinson, his future public relations officer. She introduced Yogi Bhajan as the only Mahan Tantric and disciple of the eminent Lama Lilan Po, about whom no one has heard except Prem Kakar and Yogi Bhajan. A secret guru of the master of secret sciences. He claimed to be the apostle of the Aquarian age, who had come to reveal the rare secrets of Tibetan esoteric wisdom only to the Americans. He boasted of his achievements unashamedly. And this is a quote from him. He says, "It is the first time in the world the real perfect shape of the Khalsa came into existence. It didn't happen in the time of Guru Gobind Singh. I see and now look back at the Sikh history. We have done, a handful of us, a more tremendous sacrifice for the sake of humanity on this planet than anybody can even relate to. One question is, why are the Sikhs who have the prosperity losing their prospects? I have the answer to that. Because they have forgotten the great secret practices that were given to them. Why are we, American Sikhs, out of the total insanity, becoming totally creative? Because we are practicing those practices, and that is all." And that's a quote from the Sikh Dharma Brotherhood, which was published in the spring of 1971. The secret sciences and practices which the Sikhs are not practicing and losing their prospects, were revealed to India Today. And here's the quote. And this was printed in India Today in New Delhi, March of 1980. And it says, "What I am doing is an amalgam of Kundalini Yoga and Sikh Dharma. I cannot do this sort of things in India because, well, you know, these Americans are simple people and they need simple remedies and they have all the money in the world. Come to the USA and I will give you a nice time. We are all having a nice time." Americans in search of special spiritual experiences from the Orient have gone to Hare Krishna movement and become Muslims, Buddhists, Vedantists, Sufis, etc. It was really fine to attract some towards Sikhism. It was also good that they were given fine Khalsa form and the correct dietary system. It is all very attractive and Yogi Bhajan gets all the credit for it. But, admittedly, as quoted above, Yogi Bhajan started filling their minds and hearts with such utterly unsikh-like nonsense that it has developed tendencies and cult peculiarities worse than those of Radha Swamis, Namdaris, Minas, Nirankaris, etc. And to make the matter worse, Yogi Bhajan has been successful in obtaining the sanctions from the Panthic Jethadars, the SGPC, and some hirelings who have mortgaged the lofty principles and ethics of Sikhs in lieu of pleasure trips financed by Yogi Bhajan and settling their kith and kin in the USA. More to come.